Hi, welcome to Thank You Half Hour. I'm your host, Tom Christopher Warren, and today I am over the moon to welcome a very dear friend, Phylicia Pearl Mpasi, who you know from, most recently, The Color Purple, the film that's out right now, released in December. Remarkable. Go see it. Starring as Young Celie. I know Phylicia from The Lion King, and I'm thrilled that she's here with me today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi,
Huh?
thank you for having me.
Of course. I mean, I can't even imagine what your schedule looks like currently. And I typically start asking my friends and my guests what inspired you into the theater, and we're going to get to that. But I would be remiss if we didn't start with congratulations. It's like a tip of the iceberg. Like congrats doesn't even begin to describe how proud your tribe of family and friends are of the work that you're doing right now. It's out of control. You are spectacular, and I'm thrilled for you. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is so kind. I feel everything. I feel overwhelmed. I feel so grateful. I feel blessed. I'm having so much fun. But when I hear things like that, like, you know, that my tribe is really proud of me, especially the theater people. I don't know. It feels like this is a win for all of us. Like everyone's trying to kind of cross over. And it's like
Yeah,
I've done it in a musical and it feels very aligned. So when I hear that, I'm like the most grateful.
and not just in a musical, right? Like there are levels of how proud we are of you because of this accomplishment, but like there's one that yes, you're in a big fat Hollywood musical movie. It's spectacular. The opening weekend was, record breaking. It was incredible. But also, you're in a room with these voices, with Oprah, with Fantasia, with Spielberg. You're in a room with people that, we grew up idolizing. And I assume that you didn't sit in your bedroom going, yeah, I'm going to sit in a room with Oprah one day. Maybe you did. And if so, the realization of that manifestation is remarkable. But telling this story at this particular moment, I mean, I'm sure you've been asked by everyone talking to you, what is it like to tell the story of The Color Purple right now when it is still so vitally and vital and relevant and just timely?
It feels like important work that I'm doing.
Mm,
I know you from Lion King, and I did that show for many, many years. And after a certain point, I know for myself, it became like, oh, this is a nice paycheck. This is this. I can see my
sure.
friends, I can see family. I kind of lost the how special the show is and what
Hmm.
it has done for a culture. And getting to do Color Purple just reminded me of like what I'm on this earth to do. I mean, there is a reason that a story about a disenfranchised and abused Black woman is still relevant today and is still hitting people so hard because it's still happening.
Right.
And just to be someone that not only gets to be part of the legacy, but I think represent and act as like a chain to a younger generation getting into it. It's so special and so beautiful. And I'm just so proud to be part of it.
I can only imagine. I didn't know. I obviously I'd read the book. I'd seen the original movie. I'd seen both the original musical and the revival. But I didn't know at what point in this incarnation we would see Celie grow up. So I didn't know until I saw
Mm.
the show how much screen time my friend was going to have. And the opening shot after we get Coleman on the donkey horse, whatever he's riding on, playing the guitar. But then we get to the shot of you and Haley on the tree branch and
Yep.
singing and playing and you smiling. I burst into tears and kind of didn't stop crying throughout. I didn't realize how much of an anchor you are for the whole front third of the film. And you're remarkable in this. And then you're in a room with Whoopi
Thank
Goldberg,
you.
spoiler alert. At what point did you find out that she was cameoing?
It was rumored to me. Corey Hawkins actually told me, he was like, "Are you ready for Whoopi?" And I was like, "What?" And then he was like, "Oh, okay, I touched my, I touched my, I touched my." And I was like, "Okay." And then it was kind of rumored because my mom came to set that day. And everyone was like, this is like okay, your mom can come, but it's like a special day. We're going to ask for no phones, no cameras. And I was like, oh, because I'm giving birth. Thank you for like respecting my space. No, it's because Whoopi Goldberg is coming to set.
Fantastic. What was that like for your mother to watch that scene? I mean, probably or arguably one of the most emotional moments in your part of the
Mhm.
film. What was that like for a mom to watch her kid go through that?
I mean, I think everything is so purposeful. The
Yeah.
way she has been crying for grandchildren has been like just like any other stereotypical African mother who like thinks the lineage is about to die And I've always said, I can't have children until I do something great. So for her to see the something great I was doing in real time, I was like, do you get it now? Like, I just had to kind of do this first. I'm still not going to have kids there anytime soon. I have so much to do. And she's still like, hey, but the grandchildren, please, I want them. But I mean, she's idolized Whoopi. She used to tell me when I first said I wanted to be an actor that she had visions of me like on The View, like sitting there with Whoopi Goldberg. So I think this
Really?
for her, yeah. I remember, I forget, she was in the hospital for something. I think it was just a surgery. You know how they make you wait, like you have to stay for a certain amount of time. And she was staying there and she was watching The View. And when I picked her up, she was like, I just had a vision of you on The View. Like, I know it's going to happen, because this dream of mine for her was very unknown. You know, she's very scared. I think, well, maybe a lot of parents are like, my kid wants to be an artist. Like, oh God, what is that going to do? What are they going to do with their life?
Right.
So yeah, I think her just being there on the set and like everything kind of being married to like my dreams, her visions, everything coming together is just so powerful. I did like every single part of this process. I feel like I say it all the time, feels just so anointed and so right and so manifested. And I could not think of like a better way to, I'm calling it my debut into society, to make my debut into society.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, I've been thinking about it a lot, and we worked on Lion King together. Most recently was like last summer. So you'd wrapped shooting, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they delayed opening. So you, at that point, I think you even had an earlier release date, but you know, I'm right. And I'm watching you backstage in the dark in the wings, and we're all just, you know, doing our Lion King thing. And I remember clocking, it's remarkable that you are given this opportunity. It is also not at all lucky, right? That it is ordained. It is meant to be. You're where you are. Do you feel that you're where you're supposed to be right now?
Yes, I do. And I also feel like I'm supposed to be, I don't know, it's the overachiever in me that I'm still like 5 years behind. I'm still like, okay, well, I got this kind of late, so I got to hurry up. You know, I got to.
Do you really think that?
Like, keep going. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I think it was just a test. I was journaling about it yesterday and this morning. I'm just choosing to believe it's a testament to my dreams. I have some big dreams. And I just have a lot that I want to do. And it's not just about me selfishly. Like, there's a lot of things in the industry I hope I get to change and speak out about and create, you know, more equitable world for performers, especially, you know, I always go back to theater and like, man, why are we not making residuals off like the show? Like, I always think about stuff like that. And I'm like, how can I bring some things that I know from film and television into the theater space just to make it more fair and equitable for everyone? So like, I just have a lot I need to do.
Right. Right. And you've been writing, so you've been on the other side of that table as well. How has that been? Mm-hmm.
That is writing. I think everyone should do and everyone can do. It is such a fun way to express myself and like tap into parts of myself I don't necessarily like. I can just make a character, and you're always going to like a heightened character of someone. Because like, that person's not real. Like, the person's not in your face. And it is, I find that writing, I know that I love it because I can do it in a corner by myself in a dark room and still feel so fulfilled. I don't need anyone to really see it.
Yeah.
And I just have so much creative agency there. Even if it's like I'm working on a project where I'm beholden to my boss's vision, I can still kind of put my input and put my own spin on something that someone wouldn't have necessarily put on it. And so the writing is just like free space and free reign to like dream and create whatever world I want. I love it.
Do you do it every day?
Uh-oh.
You don't?
No. I need to be better about that.
No, but there's something amazing about the fact that you allow yourself to do it when it calls you, right?
Oh yeah. I don't want to, I feel like I would love to get into a groove, and like, I feel like I found my process, and my process is like, oh, I'm inspired. I have no problem sitting for 10 hours and not talking to anyone and just writing. Right. Like, that feels so great to me. And some days it is like, I'm walking down the street, oh, I have an idea, and I'll like type in notes and then just keep walking.
Do you write?
And I consider that writing for my day. It's like
100%. Do you write? This is just my personal curiosity because I know what my answer is. Do you write at home? Are you able to be in your space and write?
I think that's the only place I can.
Really?
Yeah, and I think I'm the rare one. Most people are like, I have to get out.
I
can't be in the world. I cannot. be in a coffee shop with people talking.
That's what I do.
Because then I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, why would I get into a conversation? And I'm like, oh, that's pretty. Let me go over there and buy this. That's how I got this sweater. I was like in a coffee shop and saw it across the street and was like, oh, that's nice. I'm gonna go buy that sweater. And I bought it.
See, I can't write.
Too distracted. Being
10 feet from a kitchen, that's not possible for me because I would. Yeah. I'm a little peckish. I'm gonna go see what's on the. I just can't focus in my space, which maybe is a testament to my space needing some work. But still, I love me a coffee shop writing session. Love it.
I wish. I want to be, because so many people, do you want to go write in a coffee shop? And I'm like, no, I can't.
Okay, so you talked about your mom. Your
Yes.
first generation, yeah?
Yes.
And your parents are from the National Republic of
Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes.
When and did they come to Maryland?
No, they were in Los Angeles first.
Okay.
I'm a horrible daughter. It's either like the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
The way that I know the time period is like Larry Bird, Lakers.
Yeah.
Is like what my mom always talks about, like Larry Bird, big into Lakers, Jerry Curls, and Reagan. Those are like her things.
80s.
Like, yeah, when I got here, it was like this stuff.
Yeah.
80s, right? Okay.
That's the 80s, yeah.
80s. Yeah, and they moved to Maryland before I was born, which was so cruel. Like only a couple years. And I was like, well, I wanted to be an actor. Why did you leave? My God.
Did you like growing up in Maryland?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I think I never want to leave. I just love Maryland so much. It's the best place to be. We get a bad rap because we're always like, we're from Maryland. We're the best people, but we are.
Maryland's gorgeous too. It's
stunning. Every environment you want is there. That's what I tell everyone. The beach,
yep.
The mountains, the woods, suburbs, city, DC's right there.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Love that. And what was your sort of open door into the theater? Was it community theater? Was it school theater? Was it church music? Like, were you a singer first? What got you in the door?
Many things. I sang as a kid in our church choir, but I'm Catholic, so it's very like operatic type music. I remember I also went to Catholic school and we watched Jesus Christ Superstar every Easter.
You did?
Every Easter without fail, we watched Jesus Christ Superstar. Yes.
Wow.
I just had one. This is the middle school. We had one teacher who I think he just was. I don't know if he was a big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan or what. I wish I could ask him now. I'd be like, hey, why did we watch this? But yeah, every Easter we watched Jesus Christ Superstar, and it was just. I think musical movies were just in our curriculum. Like we would watch West Side to talk about racism and like gang violence. We watched West Side Story. But what really got me into like, I think I have to find a way to do this was two things. I saw a production of Hamlet when I was a freshman in high school, and Ophelia was Black. And like to this day, I'm like, my first daughter's gonna be named Ophelia. I'm like obsessed with the name Ophelia. I'm obsessed with Hamlet.
Amazing.
Because of that. Like I love Hamlet so much. I don't think it's any mistake that I did The Lion King because it is Hamlet. Like I just think it's all the same.
Right.
And then for our 8th grade graduation, we sang For Good from Wicked. And I remember going to that music teacher. I didn't get a solo, but I was like, Miss Spinola, what is the show? Where is this from? I have to know everything about it. She's like, oh, it's called Wicked. It opened a couple years ago on Broadway. I just was, I like found, I think like a YouTube link. Like YouTube was just coming out. I found a YouTube link and illegally downloaded it onto my own CD, and I just like play it all the time. And then when I heard The Wizard and I was like, oh, I've never felt so seen in my life.
Wow.
I have to like do this.
It's a perfect I want song. Like it's a perfect introduction to a character.
Yes, I want, and like she is visualizing, she's manifesting, and I've always kind of felt very like magical when I was a kid. Like I loved Harry Potter. I loved anything like Sabrina Teenage Witch. I've always felt like I had magic inside me. And then to hear this character talk about, literally, you know that beforehand her magic is what people make fun of her for. But it's like the thing that when she harnesses makes her such a powerful person. I was like, I feel that. I literally felt it at like 11. It's like, I am her. Don't understand me. I am her. And I was like, Elphaba, Phylicia, like what is happening?
But I think that's the testament to Wicked, because the novel is brilliant. I love the novel. I've read it a couple of times, but there's something about that musical that tapped into a generation of young teenage women and the sisterhood between them. It wasn't about being rescued by a man. It wasn't about the romantic relationship between she and Fiyero even. It's about these women and how they find their way to love each other and respect each other. It reached it like this global, it's a part of the zeitgeist now that I can't imagine Maguire even thought that it would be when he wrote the novel. You know what I mean? It's just...
No way. I mean, and the novel is dark. And I read that. Like, I read it when I was a teenager and was like, I don't understand half the stuff, skip. But I was still so moved by it. Yeah. And I think, you know, to see it become a more, I'm going to say like accessible musical, but like the same story, I just think is amazing.
And the same can be said for Lion King. I mean, now we have these long-running musicals that are a part of the bigger zeitgeist, and you see how it affects the culture of theater goers, the culture of theater practitioners, the culture of like theater as an art form. It's wild, you know. And you articulating the fact that you sort of lost that. You'd stopped clocking that with Lion King because you were doing 8 a week for a long time, and falling back in love with the form. And that's just a remarkable gift. And I read, so you're an Elon alum, yeah?
Yes, I am. Go Phoenix.
Come on. Brilliant dance program there. Incredible.
Yes.
Remarkable. And I read that Color Purple was a part of your curriculum, is what your Wikipedia page says. So what does that mean? It's part of a class, or they did the show while you were there?
Wait, I have a Wikipedia page?
Oh, you got a Wikipedia page.
Get out.
That was just updated with the SAG nomination. So
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
You're a star, whatever.
Yeah, so we had 2 courses that were my favorite because I'm such a nerd. Music theater history, and then music theater literature. I actually TA'd music theater literature. Like it's just all about the dramaturg side of musicals. My project, you have to do like a 2-hour presentation. Mine was a 2-hour, like it really could have gone 3 hours, 200 pages on Wicked. Like I picked Wicked and I was like, I went through all of the source material and found everything I could. So it was one of those classes. Wow. And in music theater history, I don't know why it came up in music theater history, but I think just, you know, like a story about Black women told in this way. I think it was supposed to talk about how you can tell an older story with a little bit more contemporary music, because they were kind of, I listened to that score and I'm like, oh yeah, this feels kind of contemporary. It doesn't feel like it's written in 1902.
Right.
And then in literature, I had 2 friends do it as their project and just get into the weeds and get really deep on like different motifs and different characters and character arcs, and like how you portray, how it's so interesting that you have these 3 women that are defiant in their own way. Like Celie's defiance is her kindness. Sophia's defiance is like her aggression and her ability to stand up for herself. And then Suge's defiance is like her sexuality. And it was like, that's kind of what we talked about in the class. Yeah. And that's really how I got into Color Purple. I didn't know much about it before that.
Really?
Yeah, because I think just growing up singing Catholic music,
yeah,
my ear went to classic musical theater. So I love like Music Man, Carousel, like those are like my bread and butter. I love those shows so much. Anything Audra McDonald has touched, I'm like, that's my favorite musical now. It's my favorite musical.
I mean, the actual queen of all of us. And what was she just announced as, was it officially announced that she's going to do Gypsy? I mean,
I don't know if it's real, but the way that I am speaking it into the world, I need to play Louise. Like, I hope it's real. I mean,
it like answers all of my dreams. I just can't. I remember seeing her in Carousel live at Lincoln Center at a matinee. So it was me and 1,800 senior citizens, and I'm ugly crying like a tired toddler that needs a nap. I'm inconsolable, and I didn't like that show, but that production and Audra's interpretation and all of them, they cast actors who sang, and they were all just these magnificent storytellers, and the staging and the design, and it's Lincoln Center. The whole thing was just incredible. And I taught music theater history for years and was able to bring classes to the New York Public Library to watch that production.
Oh my God.
On a large screen in the classroom where we could stop and start and discuss it. And just what a gift that that
so
production
jealous.
was in that show. Oh, she's just the best. Okay, so tell me the timeline of when did you audition for Color Purple through it opened this past Christmas and you're doing press up the
Yes.
wazoo. What's the timeline?
Okay, so January 2021, I said I'm going to be in a movie musical. I don't have time for this anymore. I'm going to be in a movie musical. Okay, I'm sitting in my house. I got to do something. It's going to be a movie musical because I want to do movies, but like, let me do a musical so like it can be a little easier. So like they can like hide if I'm not a good actor. Like I can like sing and I'll be fine.
Nonsense.
And then June, I think the last week of May was I don't know if you've heard the story, was my grandmother's funeral back home in the Congo. Yeah, so she passed away and it was still a harrowing time. It was still the middle of COVID. It was a lot of like, some people, we knew she was going to pass, which I find is a blessing. It was like, we had like a week to kind of figure things out.
Okay.
We all got to say goodbye to her in her hospital room. And, you know, I think just to deal with the pain of that, I was like, something good has to come from this. Like, she's going to, you hear all the time, like someone died and like a baby was born. And I was like, okay, something in her death is going to happen. It's going to be very big for me. That's going to allow me to like do the work that I want to do. I just know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. Delusion, literal delusion.
No, manifestation and your magic. We've already established your magic.
Yeah. So that was the end of May. I see the notice on Actors Access in Africa. Literal Actors Access. Something told me to just Google auditions. Like,
are you kidding me?
I wish I was. I really wish I was, and I'm not. Actors Access, and that is really more so, I think, a testament to Chelsea, is the casting team. That Chelsea even put it on there. This is so high profile. This could have stayed like quiet. It could have all been like offers. No one could have known. But the fact that it was on there, I was like, oh my gosh. And I had just healed my relationship with Chelsea in my head because they refused to put me in Hamilton. I was like, okay, it'll be something else. Like, it'll be something else. Like, it's fine. We're going to work together. It's great. Wow. So that's June. I submit a tape like the second I land back home. I have no voice, so I like edit the video. So I'm like singing one line at a time, and then I'm putting it all together, like lip syncing. I had no voice.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
I'm not embarrassing myself. And at this point, my agent had kind of also like talked to them. Like, we have this client. Her name's Phylicia. She saw it online. They're like, yeah, we'll see her. Can she sing I'm Here? I was like, oh, man. Okay. I guess. I don't have time to coach it, but sure. Send it in. This is still like first week of June. I hear back pretty quickly. They really like you. Here's another scene. Can you do this scene? And just sing another gospel song. Send that in. Then they say no. Okay, we passed. She's really talented. We're going to keep her in mind for other things, but it's not going to work out. And I was like, okay. And this is for the role of Celie, the actual role of Celie. I was like, okay. Feedback kind of got, I was like, she's reading a little young. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I was like in my 20s and I was like, I don't feel young. What do you mean? Like, I'm aging. And I released it, but I still was like, I'm going to be in The Color Purple. I don't know if they're going to cast somebody and they'll get something else, or someone will get injured and I'll find a way in, or I'll be on set as like a PA and they'll let me sing and be like, oh, you need to be in the movie. Like, what are you doing? I just was very clear I was going to get it, to the point where I actually got an audition for the Wicked movie, and Alphabet is my dream role. And I still was like, how am I going to do both Color Purple and Wicked? Like, it's not, how is my schedule going to work? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I have to do Color Purple. And I join a writer's room. I do Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, as a writer. I start that in July. I get a call from Lion King. Will you come back and like help us reopen the show? Because I was a swing, so I knew both companies. I'm like, hey, can we kind of have you going back and forth between the companies? And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not really doing anything. I can figure it out with the writing, sure. Knowing in my heart, I didn't want to do that. Right. Because I just like knew COVID, I just was like, it's COVID. No one knows what's happening. I don't really want to guinea pig a new role. But I was like, sure, I can go back. And then I auditioned for Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies in September, the show that I wrote on. Didn't get it because they're like, you're reading a little too old for high school. And I was like, okay, so I'm too young, too old. I'm never going to work in this industry. Great. Got it. Then get an email from my agent in September, and they're like, hey, Color Purple's still casting, actually. They want to see you for the role of Young Celie. And at this time, I'm like, no. I've been toyed around. I don't know. I'll only go into a studio. I went to Ripley Greer because I was in New York. This was the weekend that all the shows reopened.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was seeing Lion King. I'm seeing all of them, Lion King, Wicked, and I'm seeing one other. So I was like, I don't have time to audition. Like I'm busy. I'm booked seeing other people's shows. Like, I'm busy. And I was like, I'm only going to give myself 30 minutes in the studio. I'm going to do this one scene, do this one song, and submit it. And I think that was the magic because I didn't feel any pressure. I was like, I'm just going to do my best. I'll give myself like 3 takes and pick from those 3 takes and just send it in. And if it's meant to be, it's got to be meant to be. They already saw what I could do earlier.
Sure.
That's why they're coming back and asking. So send that in. A month goes by, I don't hear anything. October comes around. Hey, the director wants to meet you on Zoom with the casting team. I'm like, okay, sure. So still in Greece, I asked my boss, like, hey, can I just leave lunch like 5 minutes early? She's like, oh my God, yeah, sure, no problem. Get on the work session with the director. It's scheduled for an hour. It takes the full hour. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting this. This guy's had me do it 8 different times, 8 different ways. I just didn't give him what he wanted. Another month go by, now November. Hi, so they would like you to fly to LA for a chemistry read with Hallie. And I was like, am I to get this part? This is wild. What is happening? What is going on? And then I was like, I mean, I guess like, I can figure out a time to like go to LA. So then I figured it out. There was something happening with Greece. Also, we're doing like a big production meeting. I had to go out there anyway. So they were so kind enough to like make it work in that window. So I flew to LA and I walked in the room, and I'm so used to like theater auditioning. You walk in, it's 12 other people that are like you. I walk in that room, just me and Hallie.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I booked this movie.
Yeah.
That is, before we even started, I was like, I booked this movie. This is wild. What is happening? And it was just us in a room, and then 2 of the casting directors talking to a kid. The director wasn't even there. He was in Atlanta starting pre-production. I think we were the last 2 to be cast, and we just did the scenes a couple times, and it was just like fun. We just were hanging out. Like literally what you see in the movie is how our relationship was and is. Like she is like a sister to me. I love her so much.
So she had not yet been cast.
She had not yet been cast. And I assumed she had been. Yeah. And she was coming to me like, can we work on the scenes? Like, do you want to maybe like choreograph a little patty cake? Like, so it looks better. I said, you weren't just offered this? What?
Had Little Mermaid been released yet?
No, I think she had just wrapped. Like, I think she had like truly just gotten back stateside. Because they had to push throughout the pandemic. So yeah, she was auditioning in there with me. And we had so much fun. I also came dressed as the character, like so theater. She did not. She was like in jeans and a sweater. And I was like in a white tattered dress. I was like, oh God.
You booked.
And booked it. And I found out like 4 days later, that was a Friday. I found out that Tuesday that I'd gotten it. And but was like still in Greece, so I was working. Like I had like to go back to my job.
Right.
And then I was flown out that Valentine's Day 2022 is when we started filming. So all the way from June, audition process for me starts June 2021, all the way to December 2021. And I started rehearsals February 2022.
So we're at 2.5 years from the auditions. What a journey. Yes. What a roller coaster.
A true of like, I wish I could like had, I don't know, like pieces of my brain at that time. I could like look at what I was thinking because I just was so clear. I also think I just run a marathon. I did a marathon in my like backyard from my house to DC and back on my own. I just trained for it.
Incredible.
A lot of people are doing virtual marathons. Yeah. And I think I just had that energy of like, if I can do that, I can literally do anything on the face of the planet, and just was like going with that vibe.
I ask, this podcast has always felt sort of anchored in inspiration. What inspired you to go into theater? How do you inspire others? And so typically I will ask, how do you inspire others? And everything you've said in the last 40 minutes has been an inspiration. Everything about manifestation and about work ethic and about being present and understanding sort of self-awareness is a lesson to all of us. And, typically I frame it, speaking to young people just joining the industry, but really it's a lesson to all of us, young, old, just to be mindful in your existence and your space and what you want your voice to be, you know, you're this voice, to be in the industry or whatever industry you choose, everything you do is inspiring to me. So I'm so thrilled for you.
Thank you. And I feel like I'm remiss. I always I want to be very clear. Like even at Elon, I was in one main stage show out of like the 30 plus that we did. I was in one show.
Seriously.
No one really knew what to do with me. And the show was ragtime that I knew I was going to be in because I was Black.
Yeah.
So I still was like, this doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah. And like, I felt like no one really knew what to do with me, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I was just so clear that even when I was passed up for a role, I would still learn the whole role if I could anyway. And like, I put the song in my book and be like, okay, well, I'm not really a Natalie next role, but I really like this song. So I'm just going to start singing it. And I just kept doing things that I felt fueled me and inspired my own spirit. And I think that was the ticket. Like my audition song, getting Lion King, I'd met the late Jay Bender, who has just been such a champion for me since I was 16. I met him at a theater program, Broadway theater project. I sang Don't Rain on My Parade, and he was like, don't ever sing that song again. And I was like, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know who this man was. Everyone was like, he's a big cast member. I was like, I don't know him, but I'm going to sing it for you anyway. I sang it, and he was like, Years later, he comes to Elon. He remembers me as Funny Girl. He's like, oh, Funny Girl. And I was like, it's Phylicia.
Yeah.
And sang the same song, The Rhythm of My Parade. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to put you in the Lion King. And I was like, okay, great, whatever. That's how I get Lion King. Literally just doing what I wanted to do. And
amazing.
I don't want to say I was defiant. I just was very clear on what I like singing in music theater rep. I just always have kind of held to that. Because when I tried to be other things, I didn't get cast and it didn't work.
Right.
Even when I left Lion King the first time, I came to or tried to audition. I felt trying to be other things and trying to meet the moment of contemporary music theater of shows like Hamilton and trying to find a space in big belty worlds. And I can belt. It's not the quote unquote Black sound I feel like they were looking for when I was younger and right. trying to find a place in the industry. And it just wasn't my vibe. And I just, was always try to stay true to myself and then finding other avenues to express myself. And I think having writing as something, I don't like to say I'm back burner because I do love it so much, but having that outlet was really nice because I could always be okay, maybe I just have to come back to theater. And that's why I did Lion King after I wrapped. I was I love theater. I always want to love it. Let me go back to where I started because I love the show so much. And I think it really did rejuvenate my spirit. I want to find a way back to the stage. Absolutely. I never want to leave here. So yeah, I just, anyone's what piece of advice do you have? I was just be true to truly be true to yourself and know what you want to do, because I think you'll weed out opportunities that you think you have to do. And once you weed those out, it will just create lanes of what you're supposed to do.
Creating lanes of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. And they will be created. It's not even you have to find them. They will literally, either you will create them or someone will create it for you.
Right. Well, when I teach students, there's only so much you can teach. Don't try to be what you think someone wants to see.
Yes.
You really have to sort of come into that understanding on your own. And that's what you did. You have this self-awareness of what you want to create. And it's that magic in you, right? That manifestation of it and that clear-minded self-awareness. That's the perfect recipe. And I watch students figure that out, and that's the success. When they stop trying to be something they aren't, they don't love, that isn't their authentic voice or their lens, and then they figure out what the authentic lens is, and they just sort of lock into it, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. You.
Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for carving out time and for sitting down and chatting with me. I miss you. It was so great to see you backstage in the wings last summer. I hope that happens again soon. In Lion King or not.
I'm sure it will. These Lion King streets, they will always call somebody in. I will always be yeah, sure. I love it.
100%. Yeah, I'm going back to the road for a couple of weeks in February and then April and then December, I think, randomly. So I'm absolutely. Give me a call anytime. But thank you for doing this.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so special.
This was so special for me. I adore you. I'm thrilled for you. Stay in touch. And
I will.
Good luck with the move. I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, bye.
All right, that's a half hour.
Thank you, half hour.
Thank you, half hour. I don't know if I should stay on. I don't know.
Boxland Media. Think big.